What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 18. You have need of Haldani, little brave one, Gimp said, noticing Lil almost immediately. Gimp Haldani, thank the light! Please, I know you are red, but can you heal him, even a little? Gimp was staring in disbelief at her, and then her face became suspicious. What are you doing here, child? Did Gimp have orders to kill her on sight? Lil hadn't thought of that. Damn. I'm here because he is dying, Haldani. Please, he is just a little boy. You can deal with me later. Gimp hesitated, considering, but gave in with a nod and said, all right. Let me have a look at him. Lil quickly pulled him from her back and laid him on the soft grass. Gimp touched his head, and her hand jerked back. She touched it again, wincing. There was a long wait, a blue rune hovering over the kneeling Haldani, but the boy's face began to gain some color. He did not look well, but he did not look like death anymore, either. I can do no more for him. He is tainted. Tainted? What do you mean? If he needs medicine, I will get it. If I have to swim the tremors, I will, Lil said. Gimp shook her head. He has been poisoned or something like that in the past. His body cannot fight disease in the same manner that ours can. I do not know this illness. I have calmed the fever, but... Your boy is going to die. No, he can't! Child, No! Lil screamed, tears running down her face. The only person in all the world that understood her was dying, and she couldn't help him. Retfard. It was his fault. His death had been too swift. Was it not enough that he raped the poor lad? Was it not enough that he had to endure serving that pig of a king? Why? What did the boy ever do so wrong to deserve this? He was just a little tiny helpless boy. Lil fell to his side, caressing his hair and trying to stop crying. There had to be a way to save him. It was wrong. It was completely wrong. Have you and he mixed blood, little brave one? What? Have you? I heard you. What kind of a question is that? He is laying here helpless and you want to know about our blood? Find him a cure, damn it! Little brave one, if your blood has touched his, you may suffer the same fate. Lil wanted to shout more. She wanted to slap someone. She wanted to cry. She stared at his sleeping little face, panting, struggling to comprehend, striving to think of some way to take his place, aware that the Haldani was awaiting an answer. No, we haven't touched blood. He hasn't bled. I have, but not him. But it wouldn't matter. He is going to live. Gimp looked genuinely sympathetic. Lil didn't care. Mere sympathy wasn't going to save him. Mornay commanded the boy be taken to a bed. Lil refused to let another carry him. He was her responsibility. They were led down the halls of stone, solid rocks lining the way, engraved with royal insignias of the houses of nobles. The servant leading her and Gimp stopped once to a very wealthy room filled with carvings of bears and foxes and owls on the walls. There was a roaring fire and blankets were furs. She kissed his forehead after tucking him in gently, the giant brown furs to his chin. Couldn't there be a cure? He has had a harder life than you can understand. He shouldn't have to die like this. He deserves to live, and to live like a prince for the rest of his days. He has beautiful, big brown eyes. You haven't seen them, but he does. And he hasn't even smiled yet. When he's happy, he's supposed to start talking. He hasn't talked yet. He can't die. Gimp shook her head like a woman wishing she could say yes. Lil was breaking down again. She could feel Demeen hurting her, and somehow it was like she was hurting him. Demeen had her invisible claws around his throat. How to save him, how to get her off. Everyone else sadly left the room. They left her alone with her dying companion. She longed to take action, to soothe him somehow, but she didn't know what to do. She felt so helpless. She would rather Demeen rape her every day for the rest of her life than for him to suffer any more. He was innocent. It was not right that this short little life had been nothing but pain. If he died, he would never know what happiness was. She wanted him to know happiness more than she had ever wanted anything. She cried and cried, and in pure desperation gave in to the wilder as exhaustion overtook her weary flesh. She sprang from the court of hedges and was immediately in a room with him. His soul was shriveled and gray. It was trembling and contrite. She didn't care what might happen to her. She reached out and pulled it close. She rocked him in her arms, singing to him softly. She petted what she believed to be his head. She could feel his spirit joining with hers. She could feel him melding with her, and the heat of his pain seared into her. She let it. She bore the burning. It was worth it. She had to believe she was helping him. She had to. She was there for the longest time. She couldn't leave him. She just sang and held and suffered. Slowly his spirit was turning yellow. Ever so gradually the shaking was leaving, and the shape of a boy was coming into the shadowed form. She was holding him upside down. She switched him around and sang on for what felt like days. She refused to cease. Then a woman came in. The woman was foreign to her, but dressed like a wild one, in a brown robe. She had one look at Lil and then wrenched her from the boy, slapped her, and told her to run to her hedge. Lil tried to go back to him. She was slapped again and kicked. Lil flew up over the hedge and down into the court. As soon as she did, she was awake, screaming wildly. She was searing. She was on fire. She flailed and rolled, but the fire wouldn't stop, and someone kept grabbing her and trying to stop her from putting the fire out. She screamed and fought until something hard hit her head. Then all was black. Her eyes opened to see a rock ceiling, with deer carved into it. She knew she was awake. She knew she had to sleep again. She heard someone getting up and coming toward her. She shut her eyes and found the court of hedges almost immediately. She was getting better at reaching the wilder on call. She ran from it and out of her room, down the halls, opening each door until she found the one with bears and foxes and owls. He was there, black. She ran forward and grabbed him up. He was still shaped like a boy and still not shaking. But black couldn't be good, could it? As soon as she grabbed him, the fire returned. She tried to pull away, but couldn't. He was stuck to her. She threw herself around the room, but nothing worked. She leapt into the air and flew with all she had for the hedge. Something was wrong, and she didn't know what, but something was. She had to get out. She could feel the flames everywhere. As soon as her feet touched the cobbles of the court, she opened her eyes and saw again the deer on the ceiling. The fire was gone. Lil lay there a few moments, absorbing the comfort of being without pain, the ease of breathing. She was about to try again in the hopes of saving him, when the door opened to the room. He's dead. Lil knew, even though Gimph wasn't talking to her, that it was her boy that she meant. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She felt all the life just leave her. Lil! Mitten Haldani was suddenly there, pulling her near and rocking her. She felt herself crying, but it wasn't like her. It was surreal. He was dead.